Hello and welcome to another podcast episode. This is a very special episode. I'm so excited to be here co-hosting with Zina Rodriguez of Z&D Consulting. Hello, Zina. She is my co-host today. I am her co-host, and we are very excited to be with two very powerful medicine women, two Boriqua women who have embraced us in their retreat that we just went to. But it's more of just really watching them do the things that they've been unfolding in their career. But Zina, I want to just bring you on. I wouldn't say that it's just their career. It's really their legacy work, their life work. And so I met Zina at a retreat with Lydiana Garcia and Natalie Gutierrez. They hosted this beautiful retreat in Puerto Rico. We're going to get into that. But first, I want to introduce my very special host, Zina Rodriguez. Welcome, Zina. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you. Oh my God, Cynthia, I'm so honored to be here with everyone and Lydiana and Natalie. What an amazing community, like we've connected at that inaugural retreat that we'll be talking more about. But I'm a social worker. I've worked in behavioral health care for about 15 years of a career. It's been a second career for me. And I primarily focus on working with organizations on creating inclusive environments for staff and clients, and have found challenges along the way. But I'm excited to have discovered this new community that I think is inspiring me in many ways of how we can be more intentional about this work. So happy to talk and share about my experience and how it has motivated me to continue on with this work and integrate it in special ways.
Yes, absolutely. And when you said the word intentional, my heart fluttered. I think that's the word I feel for Natalie and Lydiana. So let's get them on now. Natalie Gutierrez, LMFT, author of the book, The Pain We Carry. Welcome, Lydiana Garcia, Dr. Lydiana Garcia, medicine woman, podcast host, therapist, and amiga to so many. So welcome, Dr. Lydiana and Natalie.
Very grateful to be here in this conversation. Even before we hit record, we were already getting into it. So yeah, I love you all.
Yes. Yes. And so the word intention comes up. And so just starting off these questions, I hadn't met Zina. We met about 10 women at your retreat. So I really want to just tell the people what this retreat is that we did. Lydiana, if you kind of want to just start off what was this retreat and kind of what was the intention when creating this with Natalie?
That's a very good question. So when we began the whole journey, the name came right away. It was one of the things that came right away. Reclaiming my voice and roots, because we were talking about wanting to get BIPOC women and femmes, and we were talking about the struggles with all the systems of oppression and all the stories and situations that we experience. And part of it is that aspect of we lose our connection with our voice and we're silenced. A lot of our ancestors were silenced, and we also lose our connection with our roots, and that gets in the way of really finding who we are, connecting with our medicine, connecting with our power. So that was part of it. And that's why we added the reconnecting with ancestral and soul wisdom. So that way we also included the ancestors because it was so important. So that was the overall intention. Natalie, if there's something I'm missing, feel free to add.
Oh, spot on. I'm just hearing you speak reminded me of when you and I were like, what are we going to call it? And then it was just like, it took maybe like 5 minutes to really.
It was so easy.
Because we had already.
They named it. Your ancestors named it.
Yeah, right. It was already there. It was so beautiful because it was like, Lydiana would say something. And then I was like, yeah, and add this. And then, and then we'll add this. And then it was like we were building off of what we were each saying. And then it just came to reclaim my voice and roots, reconnecting with soul and ancestral wisdom. And it just felt like, that's it. Like that's the one. That's the one.
And the location felt intentional, right, Zina? Casa Grande, Utuado. How did that come about? The location is so stunning. It's on this in this sprawling, what would you say, like mountainside? Mm-hmm. How did the Casa Grande location come about?
I had seen, I had been keeping an eye on this on Casa Grande for a while, you know, when I wanted to do retreats but felt I couldn't. and then it, you know, Hurricane Maria came and like really just messed it up. And then at some point along the way, when they were fixing it, it was bought by a new person. Then I saw some retreats were being held there, and then I was like, that is the one, because I'd always want to do a retreat in Puerto Rico, right, in the land of my ancestors, and I had always envisioned like being in a tucked away place. And so we had our visions there, and we were looking at, you know, other places too, but that was like the call. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we hear you.
And then Lydiana, and then we talked about it. Lydiana, I don't know if you want to add more.
No, yeah, it was. I'm a beach person. I grew up in the coast, but for some reason, this retreat, it felt the need to be in the mountains, like surrounded by mountains. And I wasn't following necessarily Casa Grande before Hurricane Maria, but I was seeing some retreats because when I started thinking I want to do retreats, my husband started sending me all these people in Puerto Rico that were doing retreats, and a lot of them were doing it in Casa Grande, and others, there's one in Vieques as well, that we had our eyes on it as well. And I was looking, and then we're like, okay, we can find an Airbnb. We could have been like perhaps cheaper, but then it would have required like coordinating everything, the food, you know, everything else. And it was very overwhelming, you know, as our first retreat. And we're also not in Puerto Rico for Natalie yet, very soon. So we're like, we need a place that feels like it has it all to be our first, so they can also hold us. You know, the place also needed to hold us, and it had to have all those things, because I could not have imagined if I would have had to think, wait, what's the food? Am I calling the catering company? You know, all that. And that place had it all together. So it was like meant to be. And it was my first time, I believe, in Utuado. It was my first time also that time. And even though my family is from Corozal, and which is like several towns like east of it, I think it was my first time in Utuado, but I kind of knew the mountains of the center, Bonito and others. So I was like, that's the place. That's the place.
Yes. Zina, I would love to hear your reflections on the location, that mountain, now that they explain a little their intention, right?
Oh, for sure. Lydiana, I'm a beach person too, but living in those, I lived in Chiang Mai for a couple of years, which is in the mountains of Thailand. So that kind of gave me a different connection to nature in a very spiritual way. And that was like right before this retreat. So once I saw Utuado and the mountains and the indigenous history of that land, listen, everything about this retreat for me personally was divinely guided. Beyond, I read Natalie's book. I started following her on IG. I saw the announcement. I'm like, I'm in. I didn't even, you know, it could have been like 20 grand. I could have been. I was like, I don't know, something, you know, it was just, it was so divinely inspired on kind of a trajectory of the healing. And then I think the land solidified it. I'm a Bronx Boriqua, you know, a Black Latina. I felt there was a calling of those, and I'm the least woo-woo of the group, but I'm becoming more and more woo-woo. I knew there was a calling, and they were calling. So that land, and while we were there, and you may want to share some of this, because we were seeing things, how the trees one day turned white to tell us that a storm was approaching. Like, there were all these signs. We were sitting and doing a meditation, and the ancestors let us know their presence. I mean, I'll let y'all share more about that. But for me, it was that really like reclaiming of roots right on our land, like literally on our land. That was just so impactful.
It was like the environment was rooting with us. We thought we were going to go there. It was just going to be little old me. And then you realize, like, I felt like, oh, I am part of the land, and the land is me. And that respect, I don't know if you noticed, but I would just walk to the window while y'all were talking. Like, I just was drawn to the mountain, or we would be sitting at that. I loved how we arrived. And there was that beautiful table just waiting. And I just saw all these beautiful melanated women, Black and brown women, just like, hi. And I was like, we get to do this? And then I see the mountain. the spot y'all picked, the mountain is the background, is the decoration. And every time we had a meal together, I would look around and see these beautiful women happy in their joy. Even if we just talked about some heavy stuff, but we were together, and then I would just see the mountain, and it was like, Lydiana, like what you said, the mountain was like a mother, was like a protector, like, hey, these ladies are doing something and you're not going to get to us. And like you said, Zina, the animals, the birds would like chime in, the wind, the reggaeton trucks, and we all knew it. It was all, and it was just almost like very, very beautiful reminders of the ancestors. And last night, Lydiana, I fell asleep to your text, kind of reminding us. You gave some flowers for the podcast episode with Rosa and Sophia, but you said something really important. You're like, that was so beautiful, but also our ancestors were there on that retreat. And I was like, absolutely. So if you just want to share a little bit more about how your ancestors showed up while y'all were there in the space. I know we felt it, but what was it like for y'all to have an idea? Like Natalie was like, I wanted to do it, wasn't sure if I could. How did you go from wanting to do it to the jump off? And how did that go for you?
You want to go first, Natalie?
You go. I'll go after.
I'll go. The jump off. And I mean, we're jumping again, right?
Yes.
It is. I mean, some people would say that I'm at risk, not adverse, the other way. Like I am comfortable with taking risks. And when I feel something feels in my heart, when something feels right, when something feels that I've also been asking for it, because I was asking for it. I even consulted with people and they're like, just do it in the Omega, whatever institute, or, just do it. And I was like, no. So when Natalie called me to be like, hey, you want to do a retreat in Puerto Rico? I was like, okay, ancestors, because I also ask, I'm like, if you want, like, if is this for me to for me to do it, BME, I need support. I cannot do it alone. So when that happened, then when the call, when the phone is calling, then I pick it up, because that's how I also give my ancestors and my guides that, yes, I'm ready, even if I don't feel ready, because I'm telling you, sometimes I don't, and even talking about it, I get teary eyed. Like sometimes I don't feel ready. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I question why me, and then it's that reminder of like, it's not me, it's via me, it's the ancestors that I hold, is the medicine that I hold, and all these teachings that I don't need a certificate. So, how we're always like looking for a certificate, or it's something that I've been learning throughout different lifetimes, beyond ancestors. And I have something here in my computer that I've been having in front, is a message. I'll read it. And I wrote this like 2 years ago. It says, I call forth the soul gifts and soul training that I received throughout all my lifetimes. I am ready to embody them all now without hesitation or fear. I fully commit to being here now, and I am ready to step into my soul's highest and most potent calling. I've been training for this for lifetimes. And this is from one of the oracle cards from one of Rebecca's deck. I believe it's one of her decks right now. I'll send you so you can put it in the caption if you want. But I've had that because that message resonated with me like 3 years ago, and I'm always seeing it and always seeing it and always getting reminded. Even right now with the book that I'm writing, that I'm like, again, like, why me? Like I read it and I get reminder that it's something that I've been training for lifetimes. And even though this life is all about EVPs and what's your certification, and I was born as a Latina, all those things, that's all the makeup. There's the underneath.
Yes.
So really trusting. And that's what I do, is like, I jump in and then I get scared, but then I pray, I connect with ancestors. Now I'm doing altars and things to remind me.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Lydiana, I love everything that you're sharing, and those words were so powerful. And I think part of it also is when you mentioned the cards. Every card, I buy different decks just to like see, because I like it, and I have to say, for a while, every card I was getting was something like medicine woman. It was something like seek ancestral wisdom. It was always something like the same thing over and over again. So when when Lydiana said yes, we were planning. I feel like, I mean, my ancestors have just been, I feel my ancestors so much strongly now than I ever have before. And I think this started 3 years ago when I started writing my book, and I realized I couldn't write a book by myself. And I really broke down. I think, Cynthia, when I was on your podcast before, I think we talked a little bit about this, right?
You said crying was a
Right.
go-to.
I was crying, and I was like, ancestors, like, you put this opportunity here, but I can't do this by myself. Like, you need to help me because I can't do this by myself. And the same thing was with this retreat, right? You planted this wish, you planted this desire to do this. Help me make it happen, right? Help me make it happen. And so when, Lydiana and I, when Lydiana said yes, and we're like, okay, we're going to do this, it felt like our ancestors were like together, like making this, right, Lydiana? Because then everything was intentional. Everything felt divinely orchestrated. And I can tell you that, part of my own fear of, collaborating is like, oh, we're going to get along. Am I going to get along with people? Are they going to hate me? And I can tell you, and Lydiana, I speak for myself. If you disagree, it's okay. It felt like when we were talking about ideas, it felt like when I had a like, I don't know about this, you also had that intuitive sense, right? When you had intuitive sense, I had an intuitive sense. And it felt like, it just felt like everything was really just being woven together. Like our ancestors were really collaborating and on board and just really making so much of this happen that we've just been even like attuned in that way. We have, one of us has an intuitive sense, and we actually have both felt it, right? So it just feels like, whoa. And then I have to say, like, in the actual retreat itself, it felt like I was being initiated in that moment, just like everybody else. Like in that moment, and I feel emotional about it because it was in that moment when I was, doing the directions, and I had never done that before in that way in a retreat, right? It was like, okay, this is my initiation. And it was, in that moment, remember when I was, when we were talking, when I was calling for Mother Atabe, remember the wind started going,
yes, that's what we walked into, that vibe. I'm so glad you brought that up.
And it was like, oh, I'm a drum harder. Okay. I hear you, but it was like, oh, they're actually responding to me. Like, they're responding to this. We're doing it. Like,
yes.
Zina, please.
Yes. That's when I was like, because I'm the skeptical one. I'm like, this shit is real. This shit just got real.
You heard
like,
it,
oh,
right?
we're in these mountains. Yeah, and Natalie, like,
you're with us.
I love that you said that, because Zina, I felt like I was witnessing y'all two grow. Like, I was, I go in as a participant, like, well, they know like what they're doing, so I'm going to let them lead me. I fully surrendered. I'm fine. There was no ego about it. But there was also this like intersection of, I think I'm witnessing something beyond me right now. Like really seeing that your ancestors were like right behind you. And it's funny because I didn't know that was your first time feeling that in power of it, but Natalie, I felt it. And Lydiana, you have like this big presence in this soft maternal glow. And so Natalie's here like, open all the doors. And it was like all of the wind, all of the animals, and we all just kind of gathered, and it kept happening. So the two of you together, and then Lydiana is kind of like this and it was just the two of you together felt so divine. Zina, how did you feel in the room? I know you really started in skeptical, and I kind of softened you sometimes, and it was so beautiful to just see you come alive in this retreat. So I just kind of want to hear your take of their intentions. Did it land?
Completely. And I'm going to use the skeptical word loosely, right? Because I'm a believer. I've grown up in the Ifa faith. I think patriarchy and white supremacy does what it does to us, right? So I think part of what I call my skepticism has been being in those worlds of having to conform, and that's not acceptable in the professional settings that I worked in. You can't talk about, like, you know, your cousin's a santera or your uncle's a babalao, like, right? So I've never, ever, ever exposed or explored that part of me in very deep ways as an adult. But the magic, the medicine, I mean, I walked away, sometimes lost there. And I have shared this, and coming back really kind of like with this big question mark. And I love how Lydiana had said in one of our calls, we're living in the question mark. But I feel comfortable in that because I realize that the two of you were really connected to source in a way that I had never really experienced, and protected. I felt protected, like, and with the collective of women that were around us, that were all in that same space. And there are no words I can really like put to it. It was I don't know. I can't say it. I feel it. I feel the presence. I felt the presence of the ancestors coming to the both of you. That combination of the two of you, Lydiana, your very like motherly, caring ways, this nurturing, Natalie also motherly, but with like this presence of like power of navigating like space. The two of you make this amazing combination with the help of your ancestors. And I don't know, I don't want to keep, you know, I know we're short on time because I'm lost for words, but that's how impactful it was. And it's not things that you put in words, it's things that you experience and feel.
Can I say something too? That I felt your ancestors too. It feels like the experience that I was having, because again, it was like, I'm growing too. This is my initiation too. This is our Lydiana and I's initiation. We're being an initiation into something that I just can't even understand just yet. This feels so much bigger than I could even understand. And it felt like we were just so supported with everyone's ancestors were in the room. Everyone's soul energy was in the room, and we were being held, all of us, in that. And it was just so, I just felt the love. I felt the love even when it was uncomfortable. I felt the love even when there were challenges. I felt the love and I felt the power, and I felt like the deep-rooted connection that we were all chosen to be there. And the folks that weren't, that didn't come, but we were, each and every person was supposed to be there. And it just felt so powerful. It felt so powerful.
And may I say, there was one moment, because I also felt that I was initiated. Before the retreat, I was doing, it was like the third time I hosted. It was more like a business / coaching, but it was more like spiritual, but I mask it in business, rooted in rising. And Dr. Julie, Sophia, and Mia Michelle were part of it. So when they said yes, it also felt like, oh, great. I have like my safety net because I've been working with y'all three for 4 months. And I was also doing like one-on-ones with them. So that was also really helpful. But in those calls, we had like monthly calls that I just led, and it's just spirit speaking. So I felt like I was like slowly dabbling into, but I remember that first day when Natalie was like, okay, we're going to do the 4 directions. I'm like, oh, I don't feel comfortable doing, I don't feel I have the right to do that. And she's like, okay, I'll do it. And then at the beginning, she's like, here, Lydiana, you also smudge them. And I'm like, and he was like, Lydiana, stop it. Like, yes. And then it was beautiful. I still remember, Cynthia, when you're like, can you do it double? And many of you were like, can you do it double, triple, whatever? And I'm like, you're asking me? And I'm like, but it's not me. It was that aspect of like, it's via me. And this deep knowledge and wisdom that it's carried via my lineage. And so, but I felt all of you, it felt like a very safe group to be initiated, and it felt really beautiful. And one of the things that I love the most is how you were all also so willing, because there's a difference, we can create safety and all that, but you were all also very willing and very like, I'm here to just be led, you know, like I lead people, I all that, I'm here to be led and to receive. So it was reciprocal. So I would say it would always be in my heart, this special first group. I don't know how the second and third, and we're meeting amazing people as well. But at the same time, it felt like the right group for us to, with the challenges and all that, for us to be initiating and for us to do this work together.
Yeah.
Lydiana. Oh, wait, hang on. I wanted to say, am I on? Lydiana, your limpiezas, like, I was just like, please, yes, clean me, double clean me. Like, I felt it. Like, I felt like that you had this gift of healing that I was just like, oh, yes, okay, time to go get clean, Lydiana. And just, I would stand there and just like absorb it in, like, because I knew that was your gift and your medicine. And it was just, yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah. I want to highlight you too, Lydiana, give you some flowers because I didn't know you. And I felt fine with it. Kind of like with Sophia, she was like, Lydiana, I've been working with her. She's dope. And then I saw that you were Natalie. I was like, trust. Okay. And me and Sophia had a really hard time getting to Puerto Rico. And so I love Puerto Rico. This was my 4th time. I love Puerto Rico so much. It was my honeymoon. I studied in college. And you said something on the first call. I don't know if you remembered, but you didn't have to say it. And you gave me that Boriqua kiss on the forehead. I was like talking about it and introducing myself and saying that my family's from Yucatan, but I love Puerto Rico. And you said, Cynthia, maybe you have Puerto Rican in your genes. You know, we are all like very connected indigenous people. And I remember I cried when you said it. It was like you were saying like, here, like discover a little bit about yourself. But for you to say that was such a beautiful, welcoming thing, because I do feel drawn to Puerto Rico. So it just felt whatever. So we arrive under stress. I already talked about it in the other podcast. We had missed so many things. The moment I saw you, Lydiana, it felt like, this is going to sound a little bit dramatic, but you know that picture of Diosito, the 2 little Jesus getting walked by the Virgen, and she's on a bridge. Am I the only one that? And then she's like, there's like a guy, there's like an angel, and she's guiding little Jesus, and they're like that. No, okay,
Definitely.
It was in my grandma's house. I still see it, but it was like you. I felt like you were there, like ushering us to safety, and your light and your just like genuine love inside your heart. You know, you're not faking it. You're not doing too much. You're just you. And every time you open your mouth, you say some things that I'm like, how old are you, woman? You're like 200 years old. So, yes, Lydiana, you have this way about you. And the two of you, just the way you welcomed us, it felt like a pijamada that we can get deep with. Then we can go to the pool. Like the pijamada I've always wanted. So yes, and with that, Zina, I wanted to ask you, what did you take away from that even after the retreat? What did you find yourself kind of coming back to? I know you did IFS training since then, but what else have you kind of reclaimed within yourself or kind of find yourself going back to since that beautiful medicine?
Yeah, I think if we just go back to the beginning of like the title, right? Reclaiming my voice and my roots. That was my biggest takeaway. I struggled with it. I was battling it. Things were happening there that are supposed to happen, right? Because it's our parts that were showing up and trying to guide me as well. But my biggest takeaway was I have roots. I have a voice. You know, I'm, you know, a Black Latina with a Black father, a Puerto Rican family that from pre-birth was conflictual for me. And I've been navigating that space for 52 years. And it was the first time I felt held. And I remember the very last session when we did our closing, and I can't remember who said the words, but the affirmation was, you're like a bridge for all of your ancestors. I don't know who was the wisdom one because I was just in my space, but that was my biggest takeaway, that I have space. I belong in all spaces, that I have, my ancestors have amazing gifts to give me. And I just need to stay in this question mark, listen to them. And the biggest takeaway was that there's a community of us out here. I have felt so alone in these spaces. And that beginning, finding all of the women that we were gathered with together, the intersectionality of all of us was, oh my God, we're here. We are here. We have power. We are our medicine. So like on IG now, if you see me, I try to constantly share what people are doing that I've met, because I want the spaces that I've been in that are mostly dominant, that don't even know we exist, doing our work in our power, that we are here and we are our medicine. And I hope that builds. And I'm excited for the future, for Natalie and Lydiana to see how this grows and expands within our communities.
Beautiful, beautiful. And with that, yes, I echo everything Zina says. We wanted to come here and give y'all flowers. And with that, just a little bit more about what we can expect on this next retreat, where we can find your work. Lydiana, I know you're writing a book. Natalie, you're on your second. So tell us a little bit about, well, maybe we'll start with Lydiana and then Natalie. Tell us a little bit about your plans for the next retreat and where we can find your stuff.
So our next retreat will be May 1st through the 4th. We're going to do it a little earlier, so hopefully less hot. That piece nobody shares, but it was hot. Come on. So May 1st through the 4th. And it's the journey to come to the retreat would be our link in our bios. I don't know if the link will be here in the captions, but is to schedule a call, which is more like getting to know each other. Like we call it application, but just getting to know each other to see if we're a good fit. And then depending on that and all that, then we send a contract, we send the links for people to choose what payment plan to join. And that's kind of the journey. And then about me and my book, gosh, I am in a time. The editor, it's very optimistic and hoping that I have the whole book by January 15. So I have to do the first chapter in 2 weeks. And it's been a journey because this first chapter is going to be all about the ancestral wound, ancestral healing. So then, of course, I am like, let's do it. So then I call someone to do my árbol genealógico and open a lot of things that I'm like, okay, was that the smartest thing? But it is. It's a lot. And that's where I am. I'm just in that writing portal. And I have altars that I create for my book. I am praying a lot. I am asking for guidance to come via me and just trusting that what's going to come. And at the end, what I write probably is not going to be the end. There's going to be editors and all that. But I'm really excited to bring this in a simple way. So it's going to be in Spanish and it's going to be about the mother wound. We still don't know the title because I was telling my editor, if I call it herida materna, a lot of the Latina community are like, I don't have that. So I need to, probably it's going to be more like a mother-daughter relationship or something like that. So it's that bridge that we're talking of, bringing something so complex in a simple way and in Spanish. So I'm excited. It feels good because it's in my first language, and it's funny because I'm already writing this one and thinking of the next one, and I'm like, who am I? But I'm like focusing on this one. So, and to find me, Instagram or an email, and that's where you find me.
Thank you, Lydiana.
I love it. I love and Lydiana, hearing you say, I'm writing this one, but I'm thinking about the next one, because that was I be like, and in my fifth book, I was writing to my publisher and be like, I have an idea for the next one. She's like, girl, your first one didn't even come out.
That's awesome.
But my second book is actually going to be pitched on Wednesday, which happens to be my birthday. And so we will find out if they fully acquire it or not, but it's hasn't been done before. Or if it has, it's been very few. It's a bilingual book on the pain we carry, but it's a workbook. And so we're going to be delving deeper into the practices that I've already written in the book and just kind of just deepening the experience. And it'll be in bilingual. Yeah. And it's something that I'm excited about. It just feels important. And something that my publisher has never done before. So this is a real big opportunity for things to be done a little bit differently in the publishing industry, so that we could remind folks that it's important, right? It's important to do not just English books, but if we can do bilingual books and increase accessibility and it's important. It's important to open up the doors for as many people to get the information of the pain we carry, and to feel witnessed, not just people that speak English. So I appreciate Lydiana also for writing a book in Spanish, because we need to get this, information out there. And as for where folks can find me, I would say on the gram, my handle at Natalie Gutierrez LMFT, on Threads too, but not really. Don't even bother on TikTok unless you want to be bored.
TikTok's too much energy for me. I just can't keep up.
I make my videos on TikTok so I can put them on Instagram.
Now I know the trick. Thank you so much. And so Instagram and your and your website, your Instagram will lead to the retreat information. And you can also see beautiful pictures of the retreat on both of your Instagrams. The pictures were amazing. The service at Casa Grande was amazing. The people who were there were fantastic. Y'all did such a phenomenal job. Thank you so much for being here. Zina, I will let you do the outro. Go ahead.
Girl, I talk too much. You don't want me to do it. All I can say is, if people haven't heard the passion, what we received, the medicine we received, this is as authentic as it could have experienced as it could be. If you have the opportunity, do this, give this gift to yourself, to your ancestors, to your future lineage. That's kind of like the biggest outtake I can give.
Yes, thank you. And without further ado, Natalie and Lydiana, just flowers for you. Congratulations on your first retreat, and to many, many more endeavors for you and your ancestors. It's all a gift back to us. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening.
You too.
Thank you.